Blog Talk Radio.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Move to, or rather, Politics Done Right. I got my shows mixed up for a little while there. Anyhow, before we get into business of talking about the theme of the program, I want to bring up an issue that I want to throw out there, and I want to get folks to call in if you have any thoughts on it. I know you guys all know who Lessig is. He's one of the crusaders against Lawrence Lessig, one of the crusaders against money in politics. In other words, he's been trying to get money out of politics for a long time with different organizations. Specifically, he has one going with a group called Root Strikers. Now, this week, he did something, or I saw it advertised this week, that I find a bit disconcerting, and I don't know if I should or not. I am kind of wavering back and forth in opinions, and I'd like to hear what people have to say. I'd love to see, maybe go off on Facebook to Politics Done Right and give me your opinion on this under today's show if possible. But my concern is that he's created a PAC called the May Day PAC. And the purpose behind the May Day PAC is to raise a whole ton of money, like Citizens United and McCutcheon is allowing folks to raise in an unlimited fashion. And the intent is he will be using this money to support candidates who believe that we need to get money out of politics and support policies that will mitigate this. I am a bit concerned that using a PAC in this fashion is just as corruptible as it is, whether it's a union that's using it or the average American citizen that's using it or corporations that's using it. But like I said, I haven't fully come to terms with a thought on this, and I'd like to see what other people think about this. So if you will, go to Politics Done Right on Facebook and drop me a note under today's show. Today's show is actually going to be about, what do I love to speak about anyhow? It's about Obamacare. As you all know, the numbers continue to come out about Obamacare. They're all positive. The numbers show that people's lives and quality of lives have improved, yet many still continue to place Obamacare in a negative light. That is unfortunate. Today we will discuss the latest report on Obamacare. We will also discuss politicians now running on Obamacare in places you least expect. By the way, folks, you can also now find episodes of Politics Done Right, both for Coffee Party and for KPFT 90.1 on YouTube. And if you go to the youtube.com/Politics Done Right, you'll find all of them there as well. Before we get too deep into that, I want to, kind of touch on a few things that happened this week. This week, Jon Stewart really gave it to Fox News for the way they have been attacking on the Benghazi issue. You know, this have been investigated over and over again, and Congress has decided to create a select committee to go over it yet again. Now, we have a lot of folks that are unemployed. Nobody's working for them. We have a lot of students that are out of college. Nobody's working for them. We have a lot of minimum wage, which means their lifestyle, or rather living, is unsustainable. They have to get benefits from the government, which means if they're getting government benefits because they make too little money, and they make too little money from corporations that are paying them too little money, what does that really mean? It means that we, the taxpayers, are subsidizing. We, the taxpayers, are subsidizing these corporations who pay low wages. Now, it is interesting because Jon Stewart had an interesting term. He said, the following on one of his shows. He said, you know, Fox News was screaming about why isn't the rest of the media covering Benghazi like we are? And he finally gave a whole montage of reasons, and then he said the reason it is hard for everybody to get outraged by this terrible, tragic, and ultimately preventable disaster that was Benghazi is that everyone in the country has seen this movie before. Only that movie was on an IMAX. What he was trying to tell folks is that this is the same type of stuff that occurred during the lead up to the Iraq War. This is the same type of things that these folks constantly did to mislead Americans, constantly to vote against their own interests. So this is nothing new for all of us. Now, there was another issue today with the media, or rather this week with the media. Chuck Todd sat down and he spoke to Harry Reid for a very long and extensive interview. And I don't know how many of you follow Chuck Todd on MSNBC, but Chuck Todd, sometimes one wonders if he's nothing but a stooge to the right wing in the manner in which he uses their talking points as a starting point for any type of dialogue, as opposed to his own research or the research by his own folk to actually, so that he would actually enlighten the American citizenry as far as what's going on. But it was great to see that Harry Reid actually pushed back. Chuck Todd started to ask about the things that were happening with the constant filibuster, the constant issues that always get put on the back burner. And he tried to make light of it. He said Chuck Todd responded with the typical childish false equivalence, a responsible retard of it, seeming to be tit for tat between Democrats and Republicans. In other words, Senator Reid said, you know, Tom Coburn, the senator from Oklahoma, blocks us all the time from being able to do things, and other Republicans do not stand up to him and say we need to get things done for the American population. They just don't do that. Now, Chuck said, well, Harry Reid, isn't that really something that's done on both sides? Isn't that like a tit for tat between Republicans and Democrats? Well, Harry Reid had the perfect answer. He said, one of the problems the press has in modern day journalism is everything you do is a tit for tat. Senator Harry Reid said, you won't call things the way they actually exist. What has happened here is the Republicans have stopped everything from happening, and there is no question that that meeting took place. There was an agreement made. We know who was there. They know what has happened since then. What was Harry Reid talking about? Immediately after, in 2008, 2009, when President Obama was inaugurated on that January 20th or somewhere around that time, there was a meeting that occurred with the leaders of the Republican Party in which they said, nothing this president does would be going through Congress. They will not agree on anything with him. Luckily, for the first few months, the president had a veto-proof Congress, veto-proof Senate, and a Congress in his control. And in the beginning of his presidency, the amount of work and legislation that got passed was actually enough to cover an 8-year span, to put it bluntly. Healthcare by itself was enough as an accomplishment, equivalent to the interstate highway or even bigger, because the volume is that much larger. So he accomplished that much more. So it turned out that Chuck Todd, red-faced, had no comeback for that, and he proceeded with the particular interview. But anyhow, let's get busy with what actually happened this week. The blog post for this week is Obamacare fulfilling expectations. Readmission rates are down. One wonders when the media will stop concentrating on providing fact-less information that Republicans put out about Obamacare's ills and failures. They constantly tout that the fact is that support for Obamacare is still underwater. That is true in the aggregate, but as people learn and experience more, they are supporting Obamacare more and more. If the traditional media were reporting news as opposed to right-wing talking points, many more Americans would support these policies aimed at improving their lives. The data continues to pour in, showing that Obamacare is working better than expected. Obamacare enrollment continues to surge. The uninsured rates continue to decline precipitously, especially in states that did right by their citizens in taking the Medicaid expansion to Obamacare. This week, HHS released irrefutable data that shows declines in readmissions. This translates into thousands of lives and money saved. The data seem to be coming out in time to embolden candidates to start running on the effectiveness, morality, and fiscal responsibility of supporting Obamacare. Now, the new HHS report reads as follows. Today, the Department of Health and Human Services announced that new preliminary data show an overall 9% decrease in hospital-acquired conditions nationally during 2011 and 2012. National reductions in adverse drug events, fails, infections, and other forms of hospital-induced harm are estimated to have prevented nearly 15,000 deaths in hospitals, avoided 560,000 patient injuries, and approximately $4 billion in health spending over the same period. The Affordable Care Act is also helping reduce hospital readmissions. After holding constant at 19% from 2007 to 2011 and decreasing to 18.5% in 2012, the Medicare all-cause 30-day readmission rate has further decreased to approximately 17.5% in 2003. This translates into an 8% reduction in the rate and an estimated 150,000 fewer hospital readmissions among Medicare beneficiaries between January 2012 and December 2013. We applaud the nationwide network of hospital systems and providers that are working together to save lives and reduce costs, said HHS Secretary Kathleen Sebelius. We are seeing a simultaneous reduction in hospital readmissions and injuries, giving patients confidence that they are receiving the best possible care and lowering the risk of having to be readmitted to the hospital after they get the cure they need. The improvements reflect policies and an unprecedented public-private collaboration made possible by the Affordable Care Act. The data demonstrates that hospitals and providers across the country are achieving reductions in hospital-induced harm experienced by patients. These major strides in patient safety are a result of strong, diverse, public-private partnership, engagement by patients and families, including efforts from the Federal Partnership for Patients Initiative and hospital engagement networks, quality improvement organizations, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the Agency of Healthcare Research and Quality, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Administration on Community Living, the Indian Health Services, and many others. The public-private partnerships are working collaboratively along with healthcare providers to identify and spread best practices and solutions to reducing hospital-acquired conditions and readmissions. HHS will continue to accelerate delivery systems reform efforts by working with nationwide partners to capitalize on these promising results so that the nation continues on the path of increasing patient safety and reducing healthcare costs while providing the best, safest possible care to patients. And I have a link to the full report in this post. This post actually was made after I wrote this post. I placed it on the Coffee Party Facebook page as well as egbertowillies.com Facebook page. So take a look at it. You can actually find out all the detailed information, so you know the actual data, so that you don't get conned by those that have made it their business to con us. Folks, the telephone number is 646-929. I see you are waiting to come in, Jack. I'm going to pull you in a little bit. 646-929-2495. Again, that telephone number is 646-929-2495. I would love to hear from you, but before, I want to give some kudos to a few websites that continue to give us pass on both Coffee Party information and Politics Done Right information. I want to give some kudos to the Texas Women's Coalition, and let me make sure I get that right to ensure that Michelle doesn't say you did not call our names correctly. It's called the Texas Women's Coalition. Please make sure to visit that page. They do very good work under the direction of Michelle Michon. Keep up the good work. Want to give some kudos to Liberal America, who makes sure that we stay informed with information that you don't get through the news. That is liberalamerica.org, who makes it their business as well to ensure that information from our networks get placed out there. And, of course, we have politicaltruths.info. So please, folks, make it your business to visit these places and get more information. You find things that make sense also, please remember to put it on our Coffee Party page, or go to Politics Done Right, the Politics Done Right page on Facebook. Give me a call, 646-929-2495. Let us talk. Let me know what you think. The question of the day is opposing Obamacare immoral? Again, give me a call. Is opposing Obamacare immoral? Jack, you've got the floor.
I would say yes.
Excellent.
Because
I agree.
they got no basis for opposing it anymore. It's a dead horse, just like Benghazi is a dead horse. And they're doing they're attacking a deader horse than what Obamacare is now. Now, the only question is, when will we get a single payer? When we have universal health care? And that's what we should be pushing.
Jack, I agree. First of all, let me first tell you, I think everybody who's listened to the show know that I am a fan, a fanatic. I thought I saw John come on from San Antonio and fell back off. John, I don't know if that's my fault or not, but if you call back, I'll get you on. But anyhow, yes, Jack, I'm a definite proponent of single-payer system. I don't think it's going to come right away because we have a lot of education that we have to do. I think when I put John on, he should be able to give, we went over that some last week as far as the problems that we have with the psyche of the average American citizen towards not single-payer per se, but how the taxes for single-payer would actually be collected in such a manner that people don't think there's this huge tax increase that they're getting as opposed to what it's really going to be, better health care at a lower cost and more money in their pockets based on all those issues. But do you have anything else that you want to tell me, Jack, before I just kind of put you on hold?
Okay. The big stink nowadays is Benghazi.
Yes.
It's a wonder we haven't discussed that, because that's the number one ipsy pipsy thing of the.
Why? Last week I was supposed to discuss Benghazi included in all the things that we were going to talk about, but we kind of lost sense of time. But the reason I am not even so interested in talking Benghazi per se is that, it is such a silly situation with Benghazi. It's not even worth the time and effort for us to get into.
You should be discussing efforts to improve the minimum wage.
Yes.
Extending unemployment benefits, which should have been done 3 months ago, I think, maybe 5 months ago, at the end of last year. And
I think you know what, Jack.
What else are they blocking? It's gun that's a poison pill with the NRA, and especially the gun lobby wanting to not even consider background checks and stuff like that. Very simple thing like that. How many tens of more. But I think something that's going to come up would be a women's issue that's been approved by the House and going to the Senate.
Absolutely.
It's not the what you call the
I tell you what, get your thoughts together.
Not
I know what
worry, I think it'll be approved in the Senate. Having to do with women's. They should cut off the social issues crap.
Right. But anyway, Jack, let me put you on hold a bit and get John into the conversation. John, how you doing today, my friend?
Good. How you doing this afternoon, Egberto?
Great. Talk to me, my friend. Bring it all now.
Yeah, I just want to ask you about your show on Monday, your KPFT show at 9:00. What guest you might have on?
This time I'm not going to have a guest because we are in fundraising mode for this. I had a fundraising show at KPFT last Monday, and I had a few things that I went over. And the same thing I'm doing this Monday. It's going to be fundraiser, but I am going to be going over the blog post that I did for Daily Coast this week. And the teaser it's called the Tea Party. Something about the Tea Party. Actually, I think I called it Mission Accomplished, the Tea Party Won. I think you'll find it kind of intriguing. Kind of intriguing when you read it. It'll be. I think it drops at 3:00 Central Time, 4:00 Eastern Time on the front page of Daily Kos.
So the theme is basically that the conversation has been moved so much to the right that even people who are considered normal Republicans or more general Republicans are actually more in the Tea Party mode. Is that the general? Yeah, okay.
You're absolutely right, John. I mean, I saw everybody rejoicing this week. You know why I actually did that story? Because everybody seems so happy in the Republican Party that the establishment had taken over. I mean, the Tea Party took all these losses. Really? No, they didn't take. I mean, the bodies took losses, but the policies didn't. And I don't care about bodies. I care about policies. And I think it's the same with you. You care more about policies than whether somebody says they're Democrat or Republican. If a Republican came and said tomorrow, I am in support of single-payer health care, I'm in support of what the Pope said this week, which was what? Legitimate redistribution, I think is what the Pope called it. If a Republican said that, I would vote for that Republican. Because it's not about, for me, it's not about ideological purity. It's all about who supports policies that are middle-class centric, policies that are going to move the middle class forward. But anyway, what you want to tell me, my friend?
Yeah, I just want to read a little bit from a Steve Bannon article on Matablog. It's called "The ACA Dead Enders Find Themselves Alone." It says it was published yesterday. It says if just a few weeks ago, when House Speaker John Boehner conceded repealing the Affordable Care Act isn't the answer, the same week Republican Kathy McMorris Rodgers, Republican from Washington State, the chair of the House Republican Conference, agreed framework would persist and future changes would stay within the structure of the law. And when House Majority Leader Eric Cantor unveiled the party's spring schedule, health care wasn't mentioned. The far right was not at all pleased, but if conservatives were disappointed in April, they may be even more depressed now. As Igor Volsky explained, since the Obama administration announced that the Affordable Health Care Act has enrolled at least 8 million people in health care coverage, and the polls have shown that the ranks of the unemployed or the uninsured are in fact shrinking, the GOP's 4-year campaign against the health care law appears to be losing steam. And here's Bannon again. He says, that's putting it charitably. Republicans promised to turn Sylvia Burwell's confirmation hearing into an anti-Obamacare spectacle. Republicans held their hearing, but yesterday they failed to even try. So that was the hearing on Thursday. Republicans held a hearing with insurance industry witnesses who were supposed to tell the GOP what they wanted to hear, but instead the insurance people tore Republican arguments to shreds. After months of GOP assurances that 2014 will be all Obamacare attacks all the time, Republicans have suddenly discovered that what they really care about are manufactured scandals and conspiracy theories that Congress chose to ignore right up until the Affordable Care Act looked successful. For ACA opponents, the last 2 months have been the worst since the reform package became law 4 years ago, which is especially bad news for the right since these are the 2 months that matter the most. How quickly have the tide has turned. Even vulnerable red state Democrats facing tough re-election bins has begun emphasizing their support for major ACA provisions. None of this was supposed to be possible. Republicans had decided that much of the Beltway had accepted as fact that the only political voices willing to talk about the ACA would be the GOP candidates on the offensive, highlighting death spirals and failures. So much that the Republicans are suddenly eager to change the subject, a development that seemed hard to imagine even a few months ago. For all the chatter about the law's unpopularity, the fact remains that Obamacare is not only more popular than the Republican repeal fantasy, it's also more popular than Republicans. Finally, as the circus atmosphere takes hold on Capitol Hill, observers should ask themselves, is anyone prepared to argue that the GOP's new interest in Benghazi and the IRS would be on Capitol Hill front burner if the Affordable Care Act were struggling? The point isn't there are no ACA dead enders out there make half-hearted demands about repeal. The point is they're isolated and increasingly lonely.
I mean, that was just marvelous. I watched the insurance companies and snippets from the insurance companies on Capitol Hill, and I sit there and normally we have a tendency to think, well, these politicians have some level of intelligence or some level of political wisdom. And both in watching Senator McCain attempt to embarrass, what's the new lady's name again? That's replaced him?
Yes, Sylvia Burwell.
Yes, Sylvia Burwell. Both when McCain tried to give her sort of a quasi-insult, and when these guys faced the insurance the Congress faced, the Congressional Committee faced insurance companies, it was kind of interesting because it's not like they didn't know that was coming. You see what I'm saying? In other words, they had the insurance companies immediately after giving them that data that they wanted posted by April 15th, told them, look, I'm giving you the amount of people, but I'm not telling you that these people's payments are due yet. Yet when they released the report, they made the assumption that those people that weren't due yet simply had not paid. And they did that on purpose to try to make it seem like people weren't paying their premiums, and as such, if people don't pay their premiums, the Affordable Care Act falls. Well, that wasn't the case. And because that wasn't the case, when they came out yesterday, or not yesterday, but I think it was on Thursday the 7th, that they had these hearings, sadly, they fell completely, not only flat, but I think we should have people. In fact, I tell you what, John, I can almost guarantee you part of that insurance hearing is going to be in commercials, in ads for different politicians. It's going to be interesting, if not necessarily on air, on websites. Check it out.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And the Senate ought to hold hearings on how successful the ACA has been. They have the power to do that, and so that's what they ought to do. Show up to all the success that's come, and how many people have been. 4% of the population of in America has gotten coverage. This is from a Gallup poll that they did. So I mean, that's a tremendous amount of people. It went down to 13.4%.
13. Yeah. I actually wrote a blog about that. I think on March 15th or something like that. At that point, it had gone down to 15 something. Then I got a tweet that said it was. I don't remember if it was an HHS tweet or what I got that said it had fallen to I think 13.5 or 13.7, something like that. So what I did is I opened up that old blog and put the new charts in there on top of the old. I kept the old charts and stuff just so people could see that it actually in just small amount of time these rates are actually falling quite quickly. So it's quite interesting, and I think it's a good thing. I think it is showing that ultimately, you remember there's something that President Obama liked to say. He always said this. People always ask if how does he feel about the attacks that he's receiving? How does he feel about the bad information, the misinformation, the lies? And he always says one thing: good policy is good politics. Unfortunately, sometimes bad politics run ahead of good policy before good policy is actually the effects of good policy is actually realized. So, I think. However, I've been speaking to a few people, and there are a lot of candidates that we're supporting here in Texas. Texas is you're from Texas, so you understand what we're saying. A lot of people were really, really concerned about how effective or how bad this year is going to be, given that it's an off year. It turns out I don't think it's going to be all that bad. But I have a caller at 281-702. Who do I have the honor of speaking with?
Hey, Berto, this is Michelle.
Miss Michelle Michon, talk to me, my friend.
I have a couple of points I'd like to make as far as expanding health care. We have Dean Helio-Frank of the Harvard School of Public Health. He basically says, that health care reform is aligned with a wider national priority. And he gave some examples that in Turkey it took an earthquake to galvanize the country for reform. And for Mexico and Thailand, it took a democratic transition for the citizens' right to health care. In China, it took an outbreak of SARS. So we have a decision here. Are we going to wait for something like SARS or MERS or, some kind of outbreak before we realize we need this for every American citizen? Or is it going to take us, voting in a democratic Congress and presidency?
I mean, Michelle, I think, let me just address that first point that you bring up. I think based on ideology and based on policy, we only get a single-payer type system where healthcare is a right and healthcare is paid for if we have democratic leadership. That's just an absolute statement. And the reason why is because ideologically speaking, the other party, the Republican Party, does not support the expansion of government. And the reality is providing health care is a necessary expansion of government. The fact is, what do we need government for if government won't handle those big things? Many ask, are you for big government? Hell yes, I am for big government. And let me tell you why I am for big government. I need a big government who can go up against a big Exxon. I need a big government who can go up against a big Shell. A small government is an impotent government. A small government.
Egberto, moment. You can also flip that, because you can also say, yes, I also want a smaller government, because there's a candidate in, I believe, Massachusetts, Donald Berwick, and it was back in 2000. Let me see when this was. No, this was from this year. He actually is a pediatrician with 3 Harvard degrees. And quoting from him, healthcare is a human right.
Yes.
And that he says, alarmists will ring the big government gong. He wrote this op-ed piece, which I'll post to your page.
Thank you.
He said, they warn about a government takeover under a single-payer system, but don't believe it. He said, having a single unified, publicly accountable insurance system would simplify payment, lower cost, and facilitate high standards and bold goals for better health care. So don't believe the lies. Don't feed, they're lying.
I agree.
It's just going to take us informing the public, which is one of the hardest things to do, especially when you have the other side fighting so hard against it.
Yes, it is. But I tell you, Michelle, the reason why, I have started to reclaim words like liberal instead of just saying, oh, I'm a progressive. I like to tell folks straight out, I am a liberal. And the reason why I do that is because the right has tried to demonize what the definition of liberal is. And the reality is everything that's good in this country came from liberal doings. But above that, the reason I brought that up is I think I felt a sensitivity when from you when I said I like big government, maybe saying, oh, wait a minute, but this guy actually says it's not necessarily so. What I really want folks to get away from is thinking that somehow saying big government is a bad thing, because big government means big people meaning a lot of us. Big government means, first of all, what is our government? Our government is we the people. And if government is we the people, we want that to be the most powerful entity there is. I mean, it doesn't, everything that people say out there, the people who are trying to push small government mantras are people who want to ensure that a plutocracy reigns. In other words, that those who own a corporation or those who own a select few control everything. And that can only occur when you have, in effect, a small, impotent government. Now, what's great about government as opposed to corporations is government, big government doesn't mean some overpowering thing against you. You know why? Because the way even our Constitution was written, we can throw a current set of bombs out and put a new set of bombs in or a new set of good people in. So it's not like it's not transient. But when you talk about Exxon or American Express or one of these guys, they can decide to throw a leader in there and keep that leader in there for 50 years. they can decide to do whatever they want. And the only people they are in tune with, the only people that they care about, the only people that they're responsible to or respond to are the minority or the few that owns their stocks, that owns them. And even those that own their stocks.
What I'm trying to explain in the talking points, because we all seem to have ADHD nowadays when it comes to
yes, we do. Yes,
politics,
we do.
Is that, instead of saying, no, I'm for big government, I mean, that's going to turn some people off straight away.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
So,
You're right.
I am for small government, and this is how it works. They're more susceptible to really opening the ear to hear what you have to say.
Now, Michelle, you know what? I understand what you just said, and when you talk about people being ADHD, and you have to know how to talk to who you're talking to. I am completely in agreement with that. Now,
especially in a state like Texas.
Right, but let me tell you what. Let me tell you what I want.
That says I'm for big government, and I mean, you shut them down right there.
Yes, you're right. Michelle, you're absolutely right. When I come on my show here and I say I am for big government, I really mean that. However, but if I'm going out there and I'm talking to a group of people, I'm not going to just spout out I'm for big government. I'm going to tell folks what I'm for. And the interesting thing about it is, if I start telling people what I'm for, they're going to agree with me with these things that I'm for. You know what's the equivalence to that? If you go ahead and tell people, if you go ahead and segment Obamacare into all the things that it does, and then ask people if they like each of these particular items, they'll tell you, yes, I like that, yes, I like that, and they like every single thing that you're saying. Now, the businessman won't like that he's actually, or the guy who owns stock doesn't like that he's going to have to pay a little bit more. I don't remember what the percentage is on his capital gains. He won't like that. But everybody else is going to like what they hear. And you'd see that these policies are through the roof in favorability. However, if you then go ahead and say all of those particular issues is what or comprise what Obamacare is, people then say, oh, well, but I don't like Obamacare because. And, of course, they can't tell you because what. Because the reality is they're simply talking about a caricature of what many have made Obamacare to be. Agreed?
Okay.
John, you have anything else to add to this part?
Yeah, I just want to say that we live in a mixed economy where the ratio of how much government actually does depends on what we the people say, and right. So like I'm a big proponent of the arts, and so I don't really think that the government should have that much of a role in the arts. I do think that it should have some role. I think it should credit people who really have gotten great artistic achievements, and they should be giving them things like MacArthur Awards and things of that nature. But, I mean, when it comes to health care, they should be completely involved, because there are certain things that are extremely important. When it comes to the environment, government should have a huge say. I mean, there are so many things that government should be involved in, but then there are other issues like most private industry. I mean, the private industry should be regulated, to make sure people don't get killed on the job, and there should be, great regulations for that. But as far as and also, wages should be kept at a high level. I mean, I'm grateful to see, the raise to $15 an hour in Seattle, and that's one of the biggest things that could happen. I mean, I don't think it is going to happen because of the Republicans, but even if we can get a 10-10 minimum wage, these are the things that government can do to help. And so we kind of have to differentiate between, what government can do to help the people and what, is best just left to the private sector. But, I mean, private sector should always have, common sense regulations, and we should have regulations that definitely on Wall Street. I mean, that's why it's so great to see Elizabeth Warren, put out her book and get all the great publicity. And,
have you read it yet?
No, I haven't read it yet. I'm gonna get my mother a book for Mother's Day, and I'm probably gonna be. I've been reading the Piketty book, the Tomas Piketty book, Capital in the 21st Century, which is great. Also,
I'm going to download that book today. I've been waiting to download. And 678, I'm coming to you next. I'm going to download that book. Is it a very easy read?
Well, it's not necessarily an easy read. I mean, there's, I try to mix it up. When I'm reading economic books, rather, I try to read 2 or 3 chapters of that, and then go back to fiction because I love fiction, and then read a short story, and then go back to that. Kind of mix it up in between, so it's just not all numbers,
John, I got to go to the other call, but I don't know how. I met another guy that I sit down with in Starbucks who does that. I just can't do that. That is so good of you guys to be able to do that. But let me get 678 in the mix. 678, who do I have the honor of speaking with?
Egberto Willis, it's Dan Aronson. How are you?
Hey, Dan, talk to me, my friend. Talk to me.
I come bearing gifts, my friend. I come bearing gifts.
Oh, man, talk to me, my friend. If you're going to bear gifts, then I'm happy.
I come bearing gifts. It's really simple. Quit talking about small government versus big government and talk about good government.
I agree.
I don't care what the size is. I just want it to be of value. And the fact is, and John pointed it out perfectly, if people, right, and this is both criminally and, for tort law, if people actually operated on an ethical basis, we wouldn't need laws. We wouldn't need regulations. The reason why we need those things is because people don't operate ethically. And that's where government needs to step in and say, good of the whole, good of the whole. So
look,
I would be for the smallest government in the world. You wouldn't need it. If people just operated ethically, you wouldn't even need, you'd still need it for the cooperative stuff, right? But it would be all positive. So that's my gift to you. Don't talk about big government. Say, I just want good government. I want value for my tax dollar. If I go out and buy a car, if I make a purchase, I research it, I make sure I get the best value for my dollars. That's what we as consumers, right, we as taxpayers need to do. We need to hold our government accountable for giving us good value for our tax dollar. Then if it's a high tax, if taxes are high, you don't care because you're getting your value. If taxes are low, you're still getting that. It doesn't matter what the level of it is, as long as we're getting the good return. That's all we should care about.
Dan,
that's my gift for you today.
Let me tell you that is gift accepted, and I think all of us on this call accept that gift. And let me tell you better, I've always believed that. The only thing is, and first of all, when Michelle talks about what goes over here in Texas, and she gave a slap back at me. It's like, okay, Berto, you shouldn't be saying big government because you're in Texas. We all live here in Texas, or several of us live here in Texas, and she's absolutely right. When you talk like that, it does shut the conversation down immediately. And if I'm out there proselytizing about politics, I am not going to be talking about big government or small government for that matter. So you're absolutely correct. My only contention was deep on the inside, I want a government strong enough to handle any eventuality. And it turns out in a country as big as the United States, that's going to turn out to be a fairly big government, as it is right now, a big government. But you are correct. We need to just start. We should really just be talking about effective government. So, Señor, estás correcto, mundo. You're absolutely right.
Con mucho gusto.
Oh, my God. I'm going to have to. Hey, John, we're going to have to move Dan to Texas now. He's adapting our second language.
Estudio español en la escuela secundaria para 2 años. Entonces hablo un poquito.
Hey, that's pretty good, Dan. I'm impressed. That's pretty good. Anyhow, what else is happening with you, my friend?
That's really it. Just plugging along, having fun.
Excellent. Well, the next thing that I wanted to talk about was how folks have begun doing things that nobody thought they would do relative to Obamacare. Did anybody see the hearings when Elena Kagan from North Carolina came out swinging with all the reasons why all these states that refused to accept the Medicaid expansion to Obamacare came out swinging. Did any of you see that?
Kay Hagan is who you're talking about from North Carolina?
Yeah, Kay Hagan. What did I say? I said Helen Hagan. Yeah, it's Kay Hagan. It was amazing. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it, but I mean I read a little bit about it. But yeah, I mean she's really pushing at the ACA and trying to get Medicaid expansion in her state.
Right. No,
and,
I
hope.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, hopefully it'll catch on. I mean, Moral Mondays have been great. I mean, there was also a movement in Missouri. They shut down the legislature. I don't know if you heard about that. I think it was on Wednesday. They had all of the protesters in the Missouri state government, and they were trying to get Medicaid expansion. Most of the protesters were African American, and it was great to see all of the people coming out and, really protesting. And I hope this spreads. I know that it's supposed to spread to Georgia and other states. This Moral Monday movement has been great. I think it's really opened a lot of people's eyes up and what can be accomplished.
And let me tell you, I don't know if you've noticed that. You first of all, you've just enlightened me. I didn't even know that occurred in Missouri, and I thought I followed all the news that was going on with respect to this particular issue. But what's interesting is the fact that didn't make it on mainstream news or at any length on mainstream news. I'm talking about all over the place.
It was on I think Maddow and on Chris Hayes.
Oh, you mean the one?
Not a long segment, but I mean it was a shorter segment. But,
yeah, I'm more talking about broadcast TV.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's what I'm more talking. And the reason why I'm saying that is there's an undercurrent. Remember what happens in these off year elections. You don't get a lot of people going out. But if you're telling me that you're starting to get mass movements like that at state capitals, and not only that, it's interesting because you said most of the people in Missouri were black that were marching on the Capitol. That's a demographic that generally doesn't vote in the off-year elections. So think about what could actually happen if that demographic is activated during the election. That would be quite interesting, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I love it. I mean, I love to see people get involved and to have their voices be heard. I mean, that's what America and that's what democracy is all about. So I mean, I think it's great, and so.
Yeah, we have to do that now, folks. Let me give you a few pointers here or a few issues. Please remember to visit coffeepartyusa.com. coffeepartyusa.com. Become a member. We have new things that are happening. There are a lot of good things that will begin happening with several changeovers that will be made public in the near term. So please go to coffeepartyusa.com. Become a member. You will be activated shortly. Dan, you want to add anything to that? By the way, Dan is one of our board of directors.
No, I think you said it perfectly. Join us. We're trying to change the world, and we need more people to do it and more voices.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you what, we're coming down close to the end of the hour, so what I want to do is ask all our folks to start giving their closing statements, and of course I'm going to start with my friend here in Texas, Michelle Michon.
Hey. I wish you would add another hour. This just isn't long enough. There's other things I would have loved to cover. But I guess we'll have to do that
tell me in your closing statement. Tell me in your closing statement.
I can't. It's not enough time.
Okay.
Call me later. We'll talk about it.
Excellent. John from San Antonio. Well, let's go with Dan first because John usually have a little pros to give me. Dan.
Nope, I got nothing. I just wanted to add my good government pitch in there, and we do need government, unfortunately, because people don't act right, and the biggest offender are the rich and the wealthy and the corporations who fail to keep their part of the contracts of trickle-down economics, and so now it's time for government to step in and make sure that happens. And I totally agree with John. The raising of minimum wages all over the country, Seattle, everywhere. It's a beautiful thing, and it hopefully it keeps on going.
I want you to add one other thing, Dan, because this is the one thing that you are very much known for is that group of people that really make up the largest party in this country. Let's see if you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, the people that don't vote. Yeah, we do need to get out and vote at the midterms. Obviously, voter turnout is going to be key. History, unfortunately, tells us it's not going to be good, but who knows, maybe the American people will actually surprise us and get involved. That would be cool.
Yeah, now Dana also usually have a saying where he talks about most of the people in this country, that the largest demographic of people in this country is a demographic that simply does not vote. So if we got to these guys, we would have a winning message. Jean from San Antonio, you're closer.
Yeah, I'm going to read from the Wilmington Star Newslines, an essay by Bev Veals from Cure Beach, North Carolina. It says, I'm a 15-year cancer survivor. I will not paint a cherry picture of survival because fighting cancer is expensive and lifelong commitment. I'm one that financially devastated my family. I had to walk away from my insurance and cancer follow-up in 2008 because it was too expensive. On March 23rd, 2010, the Affordable Care Act was signed into place last year with insurance through the federal pre-existing exchange set up by Obamacare. I was able to go to the doctor. I was diagnosed with stage 3C colorectal cancer, a cancer that I should have been monitored for because of the treatment I received in stage 4 breast cancer can cause this cancer. Bottom line, Obamacare saved my life. Kay Hagan's support for the ACA meant that I was given reprieve from an unjust death sentence. As attack ads flew through the media last week, I was sickened by candidates' declarations of repeal Obamacare in the same breath commit themselves to family values. What is my family to these candidates? I was raised as a Republican. I still consider myself a fiscal conservative, but I will not support a party that might as well scream the words, "We want you dead," as they try to paint a Norman Rockwell picture of themselves. My life is worth it, and I will stand behind Kay Hagan and fight. To Republicans, defending Obamacare is a catchy campaign slogan. Thank you, Kay Hagan, for the ACA and giving my children another Mother's Day with me in it. Bev Veal, Cure Beach, North Carolina.
That is beautiful. What's that, Michelle?
Post it, please.
Yeah, I was about to ask John. John, could you please put that on my Facebook page? Specifically put it under the show, the Politics Done Right page, if you could, because that is a powerful testimonial right there. Folks,
Amen.
We are getting well, we are at the end of the hour. Thank you very much for spending this time with me. Thank you. I didn't get Jack. Jack, how could I forget you? Jack, please give me 30 seconds. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I think thinking about I think what most people object to is regulations. Now Congress gets busy, particularly staff members, by going line by line, but every regulation, a lot of them are unnecessary.
Right.
I'd say that 3/4 of them are unnecessary, and that's what people object to with big government.
Absolutely.
And so it's the regulations. It ain't the principles of Obamacare or anything. I hate to say Obamacare. It's ACA. We're going to keep it at ACA, and
gotta go, Jack. Gotta go, Jack. Thank you very much, Jack. Thank you very much, John from San Antonio, Michelle Michon, Dan Aronson. Great show. Folks, please remember, go to coffeepartyusa.com. Visit us. We are, as Dan says, here to change the world. We are going to make it a better place to live. This is Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, signing out. Have a wonderful weekend.